Legacy, as per usual, week 13 is pretty electric. We did have some highs and some lows in terms of the scoring, and certainly some over and under predicted. No one pushing 200, so there wasn't like the outright crazy go off team, but the two top scoring teams played each other. We had a .24 differential in a finish. We got a couple teams that clinched. To be honest, our top five is kind of set. It's going to come down to the 1, 6, and 7 matchup, I think. And definitely there's one matchup that I think would like a do-over. So before we get ahead of ourselves, though, let's look at a little bit of NFL stuff. Then we'll get to our scores. Last week, I did not use the Thanksgiving gimmick pretty much so I could this week. So what am I thankful for? I mean, number one, no stash. You also might be thankful of that. Or if you miss it, travel back in time, watch last week's video and remember what was. But I'm also just thankful that at this point in the NFL season, things start to kind of iron out the way they normally do. The Ravens, who were dominant, are now starting to show that maybe they're not, just to prelude the flop they're probably going to have in the playoffs if the Ravens are going to Raven. Snow games are amazing. We had one last week and we got one again in this particular week. The Bills, building on that one, usually now is the time because they're an awesome cold weather team with awesome cold weather fans. If you need any evidence, do you see how much snow those fans were sitting on late at night? They had already got the game wrapped up and most of them just stayed to grind it out. Awesome fan base. Also, maybe made you some money. If you bet on the underdog on this one, we did have a celebrity and an NFL famous person get engaged, but maybe not the one people had originally bet on. So congratulations to all those Steinfeld and Allen ships there. So congratulations. But also this is the kind of year the time of year that we also start to see some of the pros and maybe some of the cons. Cons are more fun to poke at and try and take a look at. So if you're looking for poor coaching decisions, I mean, you've got Chicago, who I'm not even making fun of because they must be next year the team of destiny. Everything is going wrong for them this year, from like the Hail Mary, mismanagement. That game looked like when you gave someone a Madden controller and they would hit instead of juke or speed burst, they would hit slide. And at the end of the game, they didn't know how to rush to the front and spike the ball or call a quick play. So they just kind of wound the clock out. Las Vegas, some say mismanagement. Some are really bent on this Kansas City potentially Taylor Swift buying out the NFL conspiracy theory, but weirdly enough, not the craziest conspiracy theory going around on the internet right now. But all of these kind of make you think this is the way it typically is around the end of the season. So I'm thankful for that. I'm also thankful for my health and hopefully everybody else's health. And if you have a favorite team, be thankful if they're healthy. Last year, we saw the Chiefs and the 49ers play off in a pretty decent Super Bowl. You could make the argument that the 49ers were the best team, maybe, but they were certainly the healthiest. This year, flip the script, completely opposite. I mean, speaking of that snowball, you don't have a Shanahan unless you expect them to Shanahan, but to run a guy with a real questionable leg situation into the ground in CMC, this is pretty crazy, and we can't really trust. I mean, okay, there's a bit of a calf gate going on right now. People saying they saw the snap and the pop, and he did have a bad Achilles or two bad Achilleses, and they're saying knee, but can we trust the 49ers at all anymore? I mean, fantasy owners of CMC, no, he lied at the beginning of the year. They hid the injury, and that's a big deal. But also this year, they're kind of getting the comeuppance. They have so many players. I mean, Williams in their tackle, Ayuk obviously be gone for the season. They've gone through, right now, they're going to have 3 running backs this week on the injured list. Bosa's trying to make his oblique great again, so he's not back yet. Realistically, they've lost their essence, and you would think most people are just going to take a knee, but that's not going to be Shanahan. So if you are healthy, feel good about your health, especially if you're worried about the potential of Medicare, because it looks like Rodgers is on his way out sooner than later. So maybe he joins the cabinet and starts making sure that everyone's healthcare needs are met. I think the last thing I'm obviously thankful for, aside from the fact that I'm trying to wrap this up a little bit early, anyone who's made it this long into the video so far and still paying attention, thank you so much. And as a reward, let's talk a little bit more about our specific fantasy leagues. There's no real consoling that can be given when our 1 plays our number 2 in terms of highest scoring of the week. So Yes, it is true, Rushke. Had you played anybody else, you would have won, but you didn't play anyone else. You played Connor, and we should probably be scared. We've seen this before with Connor. He started off slow, but now he's on a bit of a run, and he's taken no prisoners. The crazy part, too, with Connor and Kent in this case is both of them scored well over predicteds, pretty high scoring. Yes, I know we're a league that can occasionally push two, but it wasn't really a week for that, although the teams that had a shot to do it we'll get to. Not a lot of top 5 finishers here. A couple, but not as many as you'd think for a 1 versus 2. Kent, you did have some people stand up for you. You did have the tight end 1 in your boy Brock, been a great pick, and the defense 4 in Dallas. You just kind of had like solid performances throughout, and people who are in the 6 through 10 range, like your Jacobs and your Higgins and your Richardsons of the world. You gotta love Caleb. He was just outside of the top 5, and certainly you don't love the way Chicago's playing, but you gotta love the way that he is, and you're someone who maybe is cheering for a few more losses and maybe some decent picks, or maybe you wanted to turn around. I don't know where you're at. Connor, again, you didn't have a whole lot on the board, but just enough to actually be dominant this week. So, and sorry, by on the board, I mean in the top 5, obviously had tons of points on the board. Mixon was the running back 4. Downstairs in Allen, you had the quarterback 3. And actually even further downstairs on the bench, you had Tua, who was the quarterback 5. Now, you did start the best defense, so that helps, whereas Kent started the 4th. So who knew this would be a battle of the, I was going to say battle of the D, but that doesn't sound like a football thing. Anywho, both of you are currently destined for the playoffs, although one spot is a little bit more certain than the others, which we'll get to when we finally get to the standings. But tough loss, Rushke, but things could be worse. At least you don't have to play Connor again next week. Can't complain too loud, but I'm still gonna, because had I muscled one out on this week, then I actually would be in a playoff spot, and I'm not in a playoff spot. And Gene, I'm blaming you. Could I blame my own players? Sure, but why would I want to take accountability? I did have a few people, QB4 in Daniels and D2, Mighty Ducks, in Denver, which was kind of nice, especially on the last little bit, and gave me not even a glimpse of hope, let's be honest. Gene, you kind of did it through kind of that ground and pound again. I was scared of Chase. He didn't go off, but he certainly got your points. I was scared of Burrow. Same, but different. I was scared of Barkley, but he's not the running back who bit me. He did just enough to get by, but Bijan was actually our running back too. But as you can see, he wasn't too far off. You had another Brian Robinson, and you had Saquon all over 20. So that's 60 plus, rounded up to 70 if you include the decimal points just on your running back and the one flex alone. So that's going to leave a mark in that case. Now, looking at our benches, I did have the touchdown factory, and I also had Thielen, who put up pretty decent fights. Wouldn't have made a difference, although really would have made it close. So I actually should do the math. Maybe it would have made the difference, and then I'm all mad at myself because I had a few receivers, let's say all the receivers, who massively disappointed me. Gene the Machine here, you got the number 1 spot. I don't think anyone's messing with that one. For me, I definitely needed that win. I am not mathematically out, but I'm a little behind the 8 ball. Definitely our tightest matchup, less than a quarter, 0.24 if I've done my math right. That's got to suck, Jeff, because you also are someone that really needed that win. This is kind of a detrimental one, although, Rennie, you really needed that win. As we're going to see, there's a lot of top-heavy teams here. Now, how it kind of panned out, Jeff, some of your unsung heroes, though, or Wilson was the quarterback 2. You had the wide receiver 5 in Allen, not the receiver you thought that would go off, certainly. Rennie only had a wide receiver 3 in McLovin because the guy that he probably, you're lucky you would have kicked yourself in the butthole if you lost this one because you had Najee on the bench and he could have done some damage for you. But what it really came down to was not the Monday Nighter, but the Sunday Nighter, where you probably would have assumed Debo could have put up more of a fight here. And had he done just that, he didn't need much more. He needed like a first down and a catch, or just one of the two, right? Because each is worth a 0.5. All he needed was some more love, just didn't get it. The fumble lost is actually the fumble that cost you. So if Debo doesn't cough it up, sorry, Jeff, you would have taken it and you would have still been in the hunt. Rennie, survive in advance. You were just over-predicted. Top 4 is where you want to be, but we'll see in just a few minutes if it's going to be good enough to feel confident going into our last week. As is the theme, we had a lot of people just kind of spread themselves out and no dominant performances, no pushing 200. So, Marco, this was a great win for you, over predicted. But if we look at your guys, a lot of double-digit scores, a lot of people that were happy little surprises. But only really kind of made your defense stood out. Everyone else, I mean, you had no top 5 ringing the bell, guys. You had some points on the bench, but nothing crazy. On the other end, Timmer, you had this one within your grasp because I know you're thinking, well, 21 points, what could have done it there? You started a running back at your possible quarter-end flex, and you had the quarterback 1 on your bench. That would have done it right there. You also, if you wanted a connection, had the tight end also on your bench who scored in the top 5. He was the tight end 2, actually, there. You did have the wide receiver 2 in Evans, so you didn't make all the wrong mistakes, but this one was within your grasp. I know you're in 10th place, but what you need you to focus up here, Timmer, get your lineups in. I'm saying it for a reason. You probably can figure it out soon enough, but I really, really need someone to call Tim to make sure he's paying attention and putting in his best lineup. So do a commish a favor, folks. Someone make the phone call. I've said this is the battle of, and I think I filled it in with like guys who love college football or friends in a rivalry, but can we say people who know a lot about football and yet did not make the right decisions this week? This was the battle of the bench, and what stinks, I mean, Maxon, you survived in Vance because I got knocked off. I would have taken the spot from you had I not choked it up against Gene, but you could have cemented something here and put it in a place where I probably couldn't have gotten and went to get it, whereas Maddie, this was big for you in the number 3 spot. Kind of rolling down here, sure, we had some people go off. We had some people perform at least well. Tight end 4 and McBride's performance. You got to love Cook. He was just outside, so didn't quite get in the top 5, but close enough. And you know, it wasn't super, super close, but this is the piss off. Let's look at the bench. On this side, we had the running back 1 and 5 who were just sitting there, points to be had. Jonnu Smith was the tight end 3. So granted, you had the tight end 4, but you actually could have put in the tight end 3 and gotten just a few more points. The real kicker for you, Max, and you had a tight end 5 in Andrews, but we all can see it on the screen right here. The wide receiver 1, and it wasn't even that close. Now, granted, against a good defense, no one is going to spot you for it, but that doesn't mean we can't make fun of you. You left 235 yards on the bench because you had to put, well, I mean, Addison and, you know, Sutton did great too. That could have been your game. I'm sorry, man. I'm not making fun of it. I probably make the exact same moves as you do, but they didn't really help you out in this case. All is not lost. Both of you are destined for the playoffs, and actually, if the playoffs were to start now, a week early, this would be the first round matchup. So just remember your benches, gentlemen, because you might be seeing each other soon. To add on to the last one, with that, Woody, you do clinch a playoff spot so you can spike the ball and do whatever dance you'd like. We got 3 people in. 2 people looking very, very likely because I think we'd have to tie, but you've got the points on at least me. So I'm the person that you probably don't have to be scared of too much. And Kent versus Kent, obviously you might, that one could be close and down to this week. So I'm not jinxing it, but our 4 and our 5 are likely in. It really comes down to most other people are out. Jeff, unfortunately, with the tiebreaker, you falling a 0.5 short did end your season, I think, because unless you score like 300, I don't know if you can catch up. So really, it's just down to me needing Kent to lose because I'm not going to outscore him by 60. Or if Kent really want to tank it, then that would be great. Then it could lose by 60. But still, you would still need to lose unless I actually did put up that aforementioned 2+. And I got to win, so let's see what the matchups. I'm not just making it all about me, but our number 1 spot is locked in. This is really the only thing that's left to fight for. I get Jeff, who's super pissed because he just lost by 0.5 or 0.24, I should say. So he might be on the comeback trail. And the reason I was so keen for Timmer. Come on, Timmer, play spoiler here, buddy. Make sure you put your best lineup in. Don't let Maxon roll all over you, just for the old school middle school days. There's my pitch. Who knows what's going to happen? Everyone else, I think good luck with your matchups. We definitely have some close ones, but, a potential upcoming playoff matchup in the 4-5 and a 1-3 that could end up being something we see later. But week 14 in this league is all about the 6-7. Let's see how it goes. Week 14 might not have the big fireworks for everyone, but it's going to have it for two people in particular. So, like I said, people, always good to have your match or your rosters set. You definitely want to play spoiler. Who wants to roll over and die? Be competitive to the very end, and let's see what happens. Either way, I'm super excited that I'm at least still in the fight for Week 14. Not all years can you say that. So, let's see how our last regular season goes and how our playoffs are going to shape up. Best of luck, crew.